representatives. Of course, I'll ask Sir Joel some questions. Wow. Well, first of all, that had to be the episode where you cussed the most. Let me just put that out there. I haven't had the pleasure of seeing your other episodes, but I'm going to make that bold prediction.
I think you're safe in saying that. Yeah.
Now, Joel, what motivated you to do the show, and how did you overcome your fear, the risks involved in completing missions?
Well, I wanted to do this show, like I said earlier, because it was so excessively challenging, because of the extreme disadvantage that I have in this scenario, and just because it was something that was threatening to me. It was something that was not going to be easy. It was going to be genuine, and because of that, I knew that I had to do it, even though I didn't necessarily want to do it. I had to do it. And it's been, because of that, it's been the most rewarding thing that I could possibly do, and I want to keep doing it as long as I'm vertical.
Excellent, excellent. All right. Now, of course, needless to say, you've been all over the world. You fought in some of the most intense and ridiculously insane terrain and situations, which so far has been, well, the most memorable, your most toughest.
It's, as far as doing the series, the most difficult episode by far was here in the Philippines, without a doubt. The Scout Rangers were one of the most competent and difficult opponents that I faced, and the jungle around Subic was the worst jungle I have ever been in. It was pure misery, and it completely was not what I anticipated. My plan didn't work in jungle that thick, and I kept expecting it to open up, and it never did. So it was really, really miserable. My camera guy went down. There are some behind-the-scenes shots on DiscoveryAsia.com, Discovery Channel Asia, the Discovery Channel Asia website. There's some behind-the-scenes of my cameraman melting down in the jungle and throwing a couple fits, which is really, really funny. I highly recommend you check that out. But every place had its own challenges, but in some places it was technology, some places it was the men, some places it was the environment, but it always was a combination of all three. But it always comes down to the men involved in whatever you ended up going against, and the Scout Rangers were the best.
Wow, guys, we appreciate that. I mean, you have a former Navy SEAL giving accolades as we are one of the best. We really appreciate that. What were some of the challenges you encountered in the jungle, though? What we saw, maybe some behind-the-scenes anecdotes?
There are plenty. Really, there was the just physical difficulty, because I was not accustomed to the jungle environment. As far as the heat and humidity goes, we were there at the beginning of July. It was a typhoon season. We had a Class 2 typhoon come in the night we were out there. Dehydration is always a problem. Heat exhaustion is a problem. There's another video of one of the producers that was with you guys, I think, in the first hour. He went down with heat exhaustion, and he had to get evacuated out and spent like a day or two in the hospital. So there's obviously just the physical challenges of that. But then there was the tactical challenges, because the thickness of the jungle, ordinarily as I'm doing escape and evasion, I can move about 3 times faster than pursuers, because of the needs that they have to, the requirements of tracking. But in this environment, that was reversed. I was actually breaking trail. And so it made it very difficult, and it put me on the defensive the whole time. I was never able to turn it around, and these guys never gave me a chance to. They kept up the pressure, and I never was able to buy enough time in order to change my strategy. I really was just on the run, and you saw how it turned out.
Oh, excellent, excellent. Now, let's talk about these guys, of course, the Philippine Scout Rangers. How did you strategize? What was your strategy against them? Of course, you are, like you said, not in your terrain. You knew they were relentless. Guys, you on screen, you looked like it was a walk in the park for you guys. It was like about an air-conditioned environment for you guys. But how did you strategize against some of our country's best?
How did I strategize?
Yes, yeah, no, you did.
My strategy when I was going into it was to, first thing I always want to do is I want to get some distance. I need to get some distance between the pursuers and me. Then I need to throw in some anti-tracking tricks. I need to throw in some deception so I can buy some time and I can throw in some confusion. And then I'll start throwing in some booby traps. I'll throw in some more tricks. At the beginning, they don't know where I'm going, and so I'm much more able to throw in deception. As I get closer to the extract, they've figured out where I'm going. And so now, for me to pull any kind of direction change or any kind of tricks, it's probably not going to work as well. So those were my strategies. That's what I was planning on doing. But the jungle was so thick, there was no way I could do that. When I would try to throw any deceptions in, I found out later they figured out every one of them. So it wasn't, the jungle was too thick for my plan. And then towards the end, I had to start using the roads because it was no longer a matter of, it was a matter of speed. I had to get where I was going. You want to stay off roads for obvious reasons. Roads are where people are. But in this case, you know, you can give all kinds of rules, but you've got to be prepared to break all of those rules depending on the situation. And this was one of those situations where it turned all of my strategy upside down, and it was a little too much for me to adapt to. I kept expecting the jungle to open up, and it never did.
Okay, and of course, we do have to keep in mind, you had 48 hours before the extraction came, so that also was another major factor, yes? So you had to rush and take the roads because time was being eaten.
The time constraints are a big disadvantage in this, because ordinarily, I would want to throw in some deceptions, get a little distance, camouflage myself, and go to ground. Because I'm most vulnerable when I'm moving, but because of the distance constraints and the time constraints, I'm forced to move the entire time, and never more so than in this scenario. And if they would have made a mistake, if I could have lost them or bought more time, I think I could have adjusted. But the lieutenant never gave me the chance. They were kept up the pressure the entire time.
All right. Now, one more last question regarding your tools. Now, we saw that you had a backpack full of gadgets and whatnot. What exactly are you utilizing in your evasive and survival? What are those tools exactly?
Well, I carry some booby trap making materials. I carry a multi-tool usually. I carry some blades, and I carry some gear that's dependent on the environment. In this case, I carried a poncho and a Gore-Tex rain jacket. But what I always carry, as far as an escape and evasion kit, I have 2 different ways to make fire, 2 different ways to purify or carry water, and 2 different ways to snare or acquire food, 2 different ways to navigate, and 2 different ways to signal. So that gives me a redundancy across all of the essentials of survival. But then in this scenario, the manhunt scenario, I don't have time to stop and get food. I don't have time to build a solar still or get any kind of water that takes time. Time is my most valuable commodity. So a lot of times I just tough it out. Like when I drank from that stream. That was not a smart thing to do. But the reason I did that was that there were only a few hours left in the hunt.
Right.
If I was going to get terribly sick, it was going to be after the hunt was over. And so instead of waiting for the purification tabs to work, I just drank the water, took the risk, and charged right through, because I had to weigh escape and a horrible abdominal disease. And
I love it.
I took the risk. I didn't get sick, though.
You calculated when you would have diarrhea. I appreciate it. That's awesome. Not many tourists can do that. All right. Thank you so much for those anecdotes. We really appreciate it. And what was the behind-the-scenes website you mentioned? Where should we catch that? Because sometimes that is some of the best stuff.
It is. But the behind-the-scenes episode and some of the extra clips, I think, is the best stuff. It's hilarious because the difficulty in filming this was off the charts. It's DiscoveryChannelAsia.com. Yeah, DiscoveryChannelAsia.com. You can find lots of clips from behind the scenes on all of the episodes. There were behind the scenes lions in South Africa. There's flying fish attacks in Panama. The stuff that had the heat exhaustion in the Philippines. It just never stopped. It was awesome.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much for that. All right, of course, we are joined on the panel by two more gentlemen from the military. In addition to Sir Juni, we have Lieutenant Jerson also joining us. Good afternoon, po. Ano, how was your experience in tracking Joel? Musta? Was it difficult, easy, walk in the park?
For me, it was a challenging experience while tracking Joel because, as we could know, I'm working with the one of the best elite force of the world. So, definitely, I must see to it that I have the confidence in tracking Joel. And for that show, I bring all a lot for me just to track down Joel and give pride to my unit, the Scout Rangers, and most especially the Philippines as well.
Excellent. Now, of course, Joel absolutely deserves a round of applause. And of course, Joel mentioned the word pride. He's very prideful in representing the Navy SEALs. Well, Pinoys in our military, we're just as prideful. So we had to capture you, and they did a wonderful job.
Well, every country thought that, but not every country was successful. So.
Ooh, all right. Well, thank you. We appreciate that. Gentlemen, what was your main strategy in capturing Joel?
Very simply, I've just used the SOP of tracking.
Okay.
Then combat tracking for the knowledge of everybody. It is our way of life in the jungle. We're used to it. We commonly do it in hunting and finding an enemy in the jungle. So tracking in jungle was our
easy.
You want to say easy?
It was easy.
Say it.
It was easy.
We're trained for that.
It was kind of R&R for them, and you were fighting for your life. So nice. What was your main advantage, though, that led to the successful capture? What do you believe?
The greatest advantage for me is, as I said earlier, the jungle is our backyard, and the best key factor for this show was we're just using only the bear tracking skill for this show. So that could be all.
You know, and I'd like to point out that the Philippine military used the least amount of assets in capturing Joel. I know that there were some other countries in other episodes that, went all out, maybe a little bit overkill with their assets in capturing Joel, or not capturing Joel. You'll have to see. But I'm just so proud to say that the Philippine military used the least amount of assets, simply blood, sweat, and tears, tracking him, and using, simplicity at its finest. So kudos to you gentlemen for doing that. So, well done. Now, I'd like to open the floor